Hey YouTubers, Facebookers, oh God, I am here in Oklahoma, getting loaded. Hours ago, when I got here to the shipper, it was supposed to be a drop and hook. Drop my empty trailer, hook up to a loaded one, and go. I busted my ass today. I drove 555 miles since 5 o'clock this morning to get here in time. So by the time I picked up this trailer, I could find a place to park for the night, do my 10 hours, and get to the receivers by 8:30 tomorrow morning, because it's only like 300 miles away. That ain't gonna happen. I got here and it's a live load. I've been waiting for a call from these guys to back into a door to get loaded, and I just now got backed into the door. So here I am. I just thought I'd do a video. Minnesota Sasquatch Trucker at gmail.com, and email me if you have ever had an encounter or a sighting of a Sasquatch. Now I'm going to explain the difference between a sighting and an encounter. Lots of people have had sightings, and lots of people have had encounters and didn't even know that they had an encounter. But they know when they've had a sighting. A sighting is when you see a Sasquatch, either 100 yards away, up close, running across the highway, running across a field, peeking out behind a tree. Something like that is a sighting. Okay, everybody knows that. But an encounter can be many, many different things. Okay? A lot of people, like one person I know, was in his deer stand having rocks thrown at him. And he was blaming his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law said, "No, I was in my stand. I wasn't throwing rocks at you while you were sitting in your deer stand." And they had an argument and had a fight about it for over a year. They didn't talk. So, if you've ever been on your deer stand, or standing in or by the river fishing, or in your tent sleeping, or down the trail riding your bike or hiking, and somebody is throwing rocks or acorns or pine cones at you, or anything, and you think maybe it's just a human messing with you, some kids, or just somebody who's really, really bored, like a Sasquatch would be, really, really bored. That's what they do. They throw things at people. One guy even got knocked out and got a concussion from a rock being thrown into his tent. People have been walking down the trail hiking and get hit with acorns or stones or pine cones. Be going along and a pine cone goes whistling by you. So that's one type of encounter, is objects being thrown. People standing in or by the river fishing have had huge rocks the size of basketballs that weigh 100 or 200 pounds thrown by them. Not many people get hit, but some do. by big ones. And this rock will land in the river so hard you can hear it hit other rocks in the bottom of the river. And huge splash, okay? So that's one type of encounter. Another type of encounter is screaming or roaring. People get roared at and screamed at, and they say it's like 3 different tones or a few different sounds or tones at once coming from these things. Sounds like a dog slash wolf slash bear slash whatever all at once. And they feel the sound inside their bodies, like when you're at the racetrack and the race car goes by, and you can feel the vibration inside your body, in your chest or stomach, and in your arms and legs. You can feel that sound. And so that's another type of encounter. Another type of encounter is when you'll be hiking or walking or biking or fishing or whatever, hunting, sitting in your stand, having sex with your girlfriend or boyfriend on a blanket in the middle of the woods. That's happened too. People will hear something coming through the woods. They say sounds like a truck or a freight train crashing through the trees and the brush, breaking trees, huge loud snaps and pops from trees and brush being broken. This isn't just like somebody running through the woods at you. This is like a freight train, they say. And sometimes it'll run right on past and they will see it. Sometimes it will run right on past and they will not see it. These things have the ability to be invisible. Like this friend of mine in Minnesota has some living behind his house. He can hear them walking in the woods, walking across a river. He hears them talking out in the woods. And he cannot see a thing. There's been a couple times where he said he knows he's been surrounded by them. And he cannot see a thing, but he can hear them walking. So that's another type of encounter. And people don't know what these are, so they just walk away like nothing ever happened because they can't explain it. Let me see. Like another friend of mine, Nicole. She saw orangish red eyes, 8 to 10 feet high in the woods, about the size of tennis balls or a tiny bit smaller. She didn't know what it was. It didn't bother her. It didn't scare her. So she couldn't explain it. So she just blew it off. She also had rocks thrown at her or by her, hitting the trailer, hitting the steel roof on the shed next door. She heard speech out in the woods. So she had a few different encounters, and she had no idea what it was. She wasn't scared because she didn't know what it was. I bet if she knew it was a Sasquatch, she would have shit her pants or peed herself like a lot of people do. So she had a few encounters happen to her, but she never had a sighting. A friend of mine was hunting in Colorado, and he had a sighting. He didn't necessarily have an encounter. It didn't do anything. They just looked at each other for 20 seconds. The thing turned around and ran up the hill. These things push on tents. They'll with either a whole hand, or they'll take their finger and poke in. This other guy I worked with in Gary, Indiana, doing ultrasound on nuclear subcomponents. He had an encounter. The moon was shining bright, and he saw a giant hand pushing down on his tent, all the way down within a few inches from his face. And when he jerked awake, opened his eyes, the hand lifted off, and the ground shook as it took the first 3 or 4 steps as it ran away. So that wasn't really a sighting, that was an encounter. Let me see, what more kind of encounters are there? The glowing red eyes, the crashing through the trees, the speech, the rock throwing, those are all encounters. I know another guy who had a sighting in Kentucky as he was driving 50 feet away up on the hill. 2 of them were standing there kicking at a smoldering log because a forest fire had gone through that area, and trees and logs here and there were still smoldering, and a smaller one and a larger one standing there kicking at this smoldering log. So that's a sighting. They didn't do anything, he didn't hear anything, he just saw them. So anyway, there's a difference. And a lot of people who have encounters can't explain it, and they're not familiar with Sasquatch trickery or games that they play with humans. So anyway, just thought I'd make that clear. I know people who have had sightings and encounters of all kinds. So anyway, and usually there's a strong, nasty odor involved. A lot of times, there have been times when people have not smelled anything and have had a sighting or an encounter. Like the guy having his tent pushed down, he said the smell was so bad it almost made him puke. The guy who was his deer stand had rocks thrown at him. He didn't smell or hear anything. He was just having rocks thrown at him. Who else was? Oh yeah, the guy in Baxter, Minnesota, who was bow hunting on his deer stand. He didn't see anything. He didn't smell anything. He did not have an encounter of any kind. But he had a sighting. The thing was 30 feet away, trucking on down the game trail right on past him, heading for Pillsbury State Forest. I wouldn't doubt one bit that that forest is inhabited by these things, these forest people. If you've ever driven around out there, like I have, I'm more than convinced that that forest is thick enough and remote enough that a Sasquatch would want to live out there. If I wanted to get away from humanity and disappear not too far away from town, that's where I would go. But I don't plan on going out there anytime soon. I really don't want to have a face-to-face encounter or sighting with one of these things. It would scare the shit out of me. I'd probably have a heart attack and drop dead right there. I would rather just have a sighting of one running across the road, or peeking at me from behind a tree a mile away. A couple 100 yards would be fine with me. I wouldn't mind having rocks pebbles thrown at me. I don't think I would want one crashing through the brush coming at me, invisible or visible. I do plan on going out to Jim's in Minnesota, who has the invisible ones living behind his house. I do plan on going out there with him and taking a walk in his woods up by the river. He's got a little bridge built over a creek out there. And just recently, a branch about the size of your upper thigh was snapped off about 20 feet high. And it's green. It's a green branch, live. I believe it's an oak. And that branch was snapped and bent down, blocking your way across this bridge. I think it was a way for them to tell him, don't cross this boundary. That's what I told him I think it is. He agreed. His dog has been scared shitless, frozen, laying on the ground with its head flat. Couldn't move till Jim said, leave her alone, she's a good dog, 3 times, and then she finally got up and ran over to him. She has never ever done anything like that before, so something big and scary had her laying on the ground with her head flat and motionless because she was so damn scared. He has a cat that follows him out there too, and I forget what he was saying his cat does, but something unusual. So anyway, there's just a short video, well, almost 18 minutes long now. Appreciate your time. Minnesota Sasquatch Trucker on YouTube, Minnesota Sasquatch Trucker at Gmail. And even if you know someone who's had an encounter, tell them to write me. Send me an email. I'll keep their info private if they like. I don't blame them. But the government has got to come clean. They've been keeping this a secret for too long. They know everything there is to know about these forest people. Some people could swear they're a vicious animal that cannot be trusted. Other people who have had sightings or encounters say they are human-like and gentle. And I think there's those two things and everything in between. There's different races of them, just like us humans. Some have pointy heads, some don't. Some have necks, some don't. Some are tall and kind of lanky. Some are short and stout. But they can run faster than you can swing your rifle at them. And even if you could shoot one, many people who have had firearms on them knew that if they shot this thing, it would have no effect because they were so massive. I mean, there's humans who get shot and continue to live and function and fight in war or escape whoever shot at them. So, I mean, these things could get shot 5 times and still come at you and tear you to pieces. They've grabbed hold of 100-pound Rottweilers, ripped them in half, and thrown them. They have grabbed them and whipped them over these people's heads and landed behind them, dead. They have killed many, many dogs. They have scared the crap out of many, many dogs. There's people who say their dog is fearless and has taken on cougars and bears and packs of coyotes and wolves. But when they encounter one of these things, this dog runs past its owner with its tail tucked between its legs all the way home and leaves him in the dust. In fact, one guy said his dog ran past him and looked back at him as if to say, "Well, are you coming with?" He said that's what the kind of look his dog had on its face, and it ran all the way home. When he got back home, the thing was sitting there on his front porch waiting for him. So anyway, these dogs are smarter than their owners, that's for sure. That would be me, man. I'd turn around and run so goddamn fast. I probably would be so faint my legs wouldn't work, and people have said that. They fell to the ground and couldn't move, or they stood there frozen and couldn't move. People have blacked out and don't remember getting back to their cars or getting back to where they wanted to be. The stories are endless and diverse. Everybody has their own story to tell. They're all different, but in a way they're all the same. So, the same but different, that saying goes. Take for it what you will. Be careful who you vote for. I'm tired of spineless politicians keeping this under wraps. I'm sure when they get elected, they are approached by somebody telling them to keep their goddamn mouth shut. Or when somebody approaches them about divulging the truth, to deny it, pretend it doesn't exist, ignore them, whatever they do to you when you question them. There again, every story is different. And I'm sick of spineless politicians. They are to represent us, not the federal government. They are here to represent the American people. And they are spineless, crooked pieces of shit. And they shouldn't have been elected in the first place. It's our responsibility to do our homework before we vote for somebody. Get them on the phone, send them an email, demand an answer back. I know it's a lot of work, but look at where it's gotten us for not doing that. It is now our responsibility to make sure we are voting for the right people who have a goddamn spine. Quit being puppets like Biden, that piece of crap. You know what? I haven't seen a single Biden poster or billboard or anything, anywhere, driving across this goddamn country. But yet, everywhere I look, there's still Trump posters and billboards from 2020 up. What's going on there? This fucking country, I tell you what, man. He was illegally elected. The people behind that need to be tried for treason and hung by their nuts. I am so angry about this. I could just pop. How in the hell are they getting away with this crap? This fucking shit. Man, I'm telling you. Someday they'll get theirs, man. Someday. I'm surprised they haven't had more domestic terrorism going on with all the shit that they've been pulling. Fucking Democrats. And then they just let millions more Democrats flood across our Mexican border. That's all they want is more Democratic voters. And you know what? They're going to let those goddamn illegal aliens vote. I guarantee you. And yet when we try to vote, we got to show them a license and blah, 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 blah. Bills, you know, electric bill from our residents. Fuck. A natural-born American citizen has a harder time voting than a goddamn illegal immigrant. What kind of shit is that? Me, I live on my truck. I don't know how I'm going to be able to vote. I use my mom's address, but I don't have any bills in my name. You know, I get credit card bills all online. I don't get any mail. No utility bills or nothing. How am I supposed to prove? You know, I've got a passport, and that alone should allow me to vote anywhere in this country, wherever I am at in my truck. And when the time comes, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to raise holy hell if they give me any crap. I tell you, I'm so sick of fucking government. Fuck you, government. You deserve whatever you got coming. All you spineless son of a bitches, man. So anyway, there's my rant. Steve Isdall on the facts about how to hunt. He rants a lot. Well, so do I, and I don't blame him one bit because I know exactly how he feels. And he lives in Canada. Fuck the government. Keep on trucking.